Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going deep into a story that's, well, as old as time itself. The fall of man from the book of Genesis. We're going to unpack some fascinating details and, yeah, see how this ancient tale still resonates with us even today.
It's fascinating how,
Now, I know what you're thinking.
yeah,
Adam and Eve, the apple, the snake. I've heard it all before. But trust me, we're not just rehashing like the Sunday school version here.
right.
We're going way beyond the surface
Yeah, yeah.
and uncovering some pretty surprising insights.
See, this isn't just a simple story about disobedience. It
Yeah.
really grapples with some really fundamental questions, about human nature, the choices that we make, and the ripple effects of those choices.
Yeah.
It's a story that transcends cultures and continues to be interpreted and reinterpreted throughout history.
Okay, so let's dive into the heart of the story,
Yeah.
starting with that infamous serpent. The text describes him as crafty, which immediately hints at a more complex character than just, a talking snake.
Exactly. He doesn't just tell Eve to disobey God outright. He uses these subtle tactics that are eerily familiar even today.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, think about modern day manipulation, right?
Yeah.
Planting seeds of doubt, questioning authority, appealing to desire. The serpent uses these same tactics. He asks Eve, did God really say that?
Mm.
This seemingly innocent question actually aims to undermine God's authority and make Eve kind of question everything she's been taught.
It's almost like he's trying to awaken a rebellious spirit in her.
Precisely. And then he masterfully shifts the focus
Mm.
to what Eve will gain by eating the forbidden fruit. Knowledge, power, even godlike understanding. Notice how he conveniently avoids mentioning the potential downsides, the consequences of disobedience. It's a classic manipulation tactic, focusing on the perceived benefits while downplaying the risks.
It's fascinating how this ancient story mirrors the ways that we're still tempted and influenced today, even without a talking snake involved.
Absolutely. Now, let's turn to Eve's response. She sees this forbidden fruit, and the text describes it as appealing to all the senses. Good for food, pleasing to the eye, and desirable for gaining wisdom. It's like the ultimate temptation. It targets her physical desires and her intellectual curiosity.
It's like the fruit represents that deep-seated human desire to, to know more, to push boundaries, even if it means breaking the
You're
rules.
spot on. And in that, pivotal moment, Eve makes the fateful choice to disobey God's command. She takes a bite and she shares the fruit with Adam.
And that, as they say, is where the real trouble begins. The consequences of their disobedience are swift and pretty far-reaching.
Yes, and the first thing we see is a profound shift in their self-perception. They suddenly become aware of their nakedness. And this isn't just about physical nudity. It's a symbolic representation of their newfound shame and vulnerability. They've crossed a line and they feel exposed, both literally and figuratively.
It's like they've lost that sense of innocence and purity they once had in the garden.
Exactly. And their next action speaks volumes about their state of mind. They hide from God.
Hmm.
This hiding reveals their guilt and fear. They know they've done wrong, and they're afraid to face the consequences.
It's interesting how this simple act of hiding resonates with us even
Mhm.
today. Don't we all have those moments where we want to avoid responsibility to hide from the consequences of our actions?
Absolutely. And God, being all-knowing, calls out to them, asking, "Where are you?" This question isn't really about their physical location. It's God giving them a chance to, own up to their actions, to come clean, and to seek forgiveness.
Hmm. It's like he's extending a hand, an invitation to acknowledge their mistake and, yeah, to start to repair the damage.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But instead of taking responsibility, we see the blame game begin. Adam points the finger at Eve, and Eve blames the serpent. No one wants to, own up to their part in the transgression.
It's almost comical how this tendency to shift blame is as old as time itself.
It's a human reaction, isn't it?
Yeah.
We see it play out time and time again, throughout history and even our own lives. And it's here that this concept of sin takes center stage. Sin isn't just about breaking a rule. It's about that separation from God that occurs when we prioritize our own desires over his will.
It's like a fracturing of that perfect harmony they once had in the garden. And this fracture leads to some pretty serious consequences for everyone involved, starting with the serpent.
Yes, the serpent receives a very harsh punishment. He's cursed to crawl on his belly and eat dust, a symbolic demotion stripping him of any perceived power or majesty. But there's a deeper layer to this curse, something that hints at a greater plan. God establishes enmity between the serpent and the woman and between their offspring. This sets the stage for a future redeemer, someone who will ultimately crush the serpent's head.
It's like even in the midst of judgment, there's a glimmer of hope, a promise of eventual victory over evil.
Exactly. Now, let's look at Eve's punishment. She's told that she will experience pain in childbirth, and then her desire will be for her husband, but he will rule over her. This passage has sparked countless debates and interpretations throughout history.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most challenging and controversial aspects of the story.
Some view it as a reflection of the prevailing societal norms of the time, while others see it as a direct consequence of the fall, a distortion of the original harmony that existed between men and women. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's a difficult passage to interpret for sure,
Yeah.
but it certainly raises some important questions about gender roles, power dynamics, and the impact of sin on human relationships.
Absolutely. And finally, we come to Adam's punishment. He's cursed with having to toil the ground for sustenance, facing thorns and thistles as he works. God reminds him that he came from dust and will return to dust. A stark reminder of human mortality,
Yeah.
fragility of life.
It's almost like he's experiencing a separation, not just from God, but also from like the natural world, the ease and abundance of the garden. What do you think this says about the nature of work and our relationship with the earth?
That's a profound question. Perhaps it suggests that work, though necessary for survival, is also part of the human experience after the fall, a consequence of our separation from God and the natural order.
Hmm. It's certainly something to ponder. But even in this, in this difficult moment, there's a glimmer of God's compassion. He provides garments of skin for Adam and Eve.
Right. He doesn't abandon them to their shame and vulnerability. This act of providing clothing signifies his continued care for them, even in their fallen state. It shows that even though there are consequences for their actions, God's love and mercy are still present.
It's a powerful reminder that even when we make mistakes, we're not beyond the reach of God's grace.
Exactly. And finally, we come to the expulsion from Eden. God banishes Adam and Eve from the garden, primarily to prevent them from eating from the tree of life and living forever in their now fallen state.
It's like he's protecting them from an even greater tragedy, living eternally separated from him.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so they are sent out into the world, forced to confront the harsh realities of life outside paradise. But before they depart, there's one more significant detail. Adam names his wife Eve, meaning mother of all living.
It's an acknowledgement of their new reality, isn't it? Like life will go on even outside of Eden.
Precisely. And in this act of naming, we see a glimmer of hope. Even in the face of loss and hardship, there's still this promise of new life, of a future for humanity.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there's always the potential for renewal and redemption.
And with that, the stage is set for the rest of the biblical narrative. The fall of man becomes this foundational story, shaping our understanding of human nature, morality, and our relationship with God.
This is where the story gets really interesting. We've laid the groundwork, explored the motivations, and witnessed the consequences. But the bigger question is, how does this ancient story still resonate with us today? And that's what we'll be diving into next. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the fall of man.
Yeah.
As we've seen, this story is, more than just like a historical account. It's a really profound exploration of human nature and, the consequences of our choices.
Right. It's like this ancient tale holds up a mirror to humanity, reflecting back our desires, our struggles, and, our capacity for both good and evil.
Exactly. And what's particularly interesting is how this story has been interpreted throughout history.
Oh, yeah.
Different theological traditions have emphasized different aspects of the fall, leading to this really rich tapestry of perspectives.
For instance, some traditions focus really heavily on the concept of original sin.
Yes.
The idea that, Adam and Eve's disobedience tainted all of humanity, leaving us with an inherent inclination towards sin.
Yes, this concept has had a profound impact on Christian theology, shaping beliefs about salvation, grace, and, the need for redemption. It suggests that we're born into a world already marked by sin, and we're all in need of God's grace to overcome its influence.
It's a weighty concept, for sure. But there are, other interpretations that focus more on the psychological and spiritual truths that are revealed in the story.
Absolutely. For example, the serpent can be seen as a representation of the temptations we all face in life. Those inner voices that urge us towards selfish choices, that whisper doubts, and encourage us to stray from what we know is right.
It's like that constant battle between, our better angels and our baser instincts.
Precisely. And the Garden of Eden itself can be viewed as a symbol of innocence, wholeness, and that deep longing for connection with God and nature that we all carry within us.
It's that yearning for a paradise lost,
Yeah.
a state of being we might, like, glimpse in moments of profound peace or joy. Right.
But can never fully recapture.
Exactly. And then there's the expulsion from Eden, which can be interpreted as a metaphor for the challenges and hardships we encounter in the real world.
Right.
The thorns and thistles that Adam now faces in his labor could represent the obstacles and setbacks we experience in our own lives.
It's like that moment when we realize that life isn't always easy,
Yeah.
that there will be struggles and disappointments along the way.
Yes. And this interpretation suggests that the fall wasn't just a single event in the distant past.
Right.
It's an ongoing process that we experience on a personal level as we, navigate the complexities of life.
So even though this story is thousands of years old, it still speaks to us in a deeply personal way.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because it captures those universal human experiences that transcend time and culture. We all face temptation, make choices that have consequences, and wrestle with the complexities of right and wrong. It's like this story provides a framework for understanding this, the human condition, the challenges we face, and the choices we make that shape our lives.
Exactly. And it doesn't offer easy answers or simplistic solutions. It leaves us grappling with profound questions about good and evil, free will versus divine sovereignty, and the nature of our relationship with God.
Yeah, it invites us to think critically, to wrestle with these ideas and to form our own conclusions. It's not about blind faith. It's about engaging in an ongoing conversation, a search for meaning and understanding.
You're spot on. And I think one of those powerful ways this story resonates with us is through its exploration of relationships.
Oh, interesting.
Adam and Eve's relationship with God is fractured by their disobedience. They experience this sense of separation and alienation.
And their relationship with each other is also impacted. We
Yeah.
see blame, shame, and a sense of distance, emerging between them.
Right. And isn't that something we all experience in our own relationships?
Yeah.
Those moments when trust is broken, when words are spoken in anger, when we feel disconnected from those we love.
Absolutely. It's like this story reminds us that relationships are fragile.
Yeah.
And they require constant care and attention to thrive.
But even though Adam and Eve experienced this profound sense of brokenness,
Right.
the story doesn't end there.
Right.
It offers a glimmer of hope,
Yeah.
a promise of restoration.
Yes. Despite their disobedience, God doesn't abandon them.
Right.
He provides clothing,
Yeah.
a symbol of his continuing care and protection.
Exactly. And he sets in motion a plan for redemption, a way for humanity to ultimately be reconciled with him.
So even though the consequences of their actions are real and lasting,
Yeah.
the story suggests that forgiveness and healing are still possible.
Precisely. It's a message that resonates deeply with us because, we all make mistakes, we all experience brokenness, and we all long for healing and wholeness.
It's a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there's always a path back to the light, a possibility for redemption.
Absolutely. And another powerful aspect of this story is its emphasis on the power of choice. Adam and Eve had a choice to obey God or disobey him.
Right.
And their choice had, far-reaching consequences.
It's like a stark reminder that our choices matter.
Yeah.
That even seemingly small decisions can have a ripple effect on our lives and the lives of others.
Exactly. And it challenges us to think carefully about the choices we're making, each day.
Yeah.
Are we choosing actions that lead to life, to love, to connection?
Right.
Or are we choosing actions that lead to separation, pain, and destruction?
It's almost like we're constantly standing at a crossroads.
Yeah.
Faced with choices that will shape our destiny.
You're absolutely right. And and the story doesn't offer a simple formula for making the right choices.
Right.
It acknowledges the complexity of human experience, the inner conflicts we all face, and the temptations that can lead us astray.
But it does suggest that true wisdom comes from, aligning ourselves with God's will,
Yeah.
seeking his guidance and trusting in his love and mercy.
Exactly. And that's not a one-time decision.
Right.
It's an ongoing process of seeking, learning, and growing.
Right.
It's about striving to live in a way that honors God, ourselves, and others.
It's about making choices that lead to wholeness, to healing, to, a deeper connection with the divine.
You've got it. And in that sense, the fall of man isn't just a story about the past.
Yeah.
It's a story about the present and the future.
It's a story that continues to shape our understanding of, who we are, where we come from, and where we're going.
Yeah.
It's a story that challenges us to keep asking the hard questions, to keep seeking truth,
Right.
and to, keep striving for a better world.
Oh, absolutely. And as we move into the final part of our deep dive, let's consider this. How can we apply the lessons of the fall of man to our own lives today? What choices can we make that will lead to healing, restoration, and a deeper connection with God and each other? These are the questions we'll explore as we conclude our journey. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been exploring the fall of man, this ancient story that continues to have a powerful impact on how we understand the world and ourselves.
And as we wrap up our deep dive, I think it's really important to highlight the enduring legacy of this story. It's not like confined to the pages of the Bible. Its themes and symbolism have permeated art, literature, philosophy, even our understanding of psychology.
That's true. Think about like all the paintings, poems, novels, even films that grapple with these like themes of temptation, sin, redemption, loss of innocence. The fall of man has become this archetype, this universal symbol of the human condition.
Yeah. It's fascinating how this story from Genesis has kind of woven itself into the fabric of Western culture,
Right.
shaping our collective consciousness and continuing to inspire creative expression,
Mm-hmm.
for centuries.
Okay, so we've talked about the consequences of the fall,
Yeah,
the impact it's had on humanity,
right.
but there's another essential dimension to this story that we need to explore: the concept of redemption.
Absolutely. The fall isn't like the final word. It's actually the beginning of a much larger narrative, one that unfolds throughout the entire Bible, culminating in a message of hope and restoration.
So even though Adam and Eve made a monumental mistake, God doesn't just like give up on them or on humanity.
Exactly. And this is where this concept of a redeemer, a savior, comes into play.
Right.
This idea that God will, send someone to restore what was lost,
Wow.
to bridge the chasm between humanity and divinity, to heal the brokenness caused by sin.
And this promise of redemption is woven throughout the Old Testament.
It's like a golden thread
Yeah.
pointing forward to the coming of Jesus in the New Testament.
For Christians, Jesus is seen as the fulfillment of that promise.
Right.
He's the one who takes on the burden of sin, who offers forgiveness and reconciliation with God,
Yeah.
who opens the way for us to return to a right relationship with our Creator.
So the fall of man, while it highlights our flaws and our capacity for making bad choices,
Right.
also sets the stage for this incredible story of hope and second chances.
It's like a tapestry woven with threads of both darkness and light,
Yeah.
depicting both the brokenness of humanity and the possibility of healing and wholeness.
It reminds us that even when we mess up, even when we stray from the path, even when we make choices that have like painful consequences, there's always a way back.
And that's a message that resonates, deeply with people from all walks of life. We all make
Mhm.
mistakes. We all experience brokenness.
We all yearn for a sense of belonging,
Yeah.
of being made whole again.
So as we conclude our deep dive into the fall of man, I think the most important takeaway is this: it's a story that invites us to reflect on our own humanity, our choices, our vulnerabilities, and our deep need for connection with something greater than ourselves.
It challenges us to consider the consequences of our actions, but it also offers this hope for redemption,
Yeah.
for healing,
Yeah.
for a future filled with possibilities.
It's a story that reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles, that there's a force of love and compassion, in the universe that desires our well-being and wants to guide us towards wholeness.
And it's a story that continues to inspire, provoke, and challenge us, prompting us to ask the big questions,
Right.
to wrestle with our beliefs, and to live lives that reflect our highest values.
We hope this deep dive has given you a new perspective on this this ancient and enduring story. What insights resonated with you? What questions are you still pondering? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.